I know you were up late last night because you were at council with me, so.
Yeah, I didn't go to sleep until like 12.
I know it's hard because the adrenaline after that, I don't know. I get kind of hyped up on city politics.
Jeez. Yeah. Oh my
That's
goodness.
great.
But thank you for what you do, Megan. Honestly, it's
I
much
appreciate
needed
it.
just to inform the public. So
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
absolutely.
And thank you for coming to chat with us. I'm excited to talk through a bunch of different policies and your campaign. And, really, I just want to get started, Zach, by asking, why did you decide to run for city council?
Oh, that's such a great question, Megan. I mean, it's something that I ask myself daily. But
It's fair.
I think it's just really a response to a calling. Just coming to this country as a refugee, the city has opened its arms for me, provided me with a safe neighborhood to live in, a good school to go to, and opportunities that were within reach. I've just taken in so much. I truly think it's just time for me to give back.
That's really sweet. I appreciate that, Zach. I'm going to start with a really controversial one for you. If you could eat at only one Sioux Falls restaurant for the rest of the year, where are you going?
Oh, geez, that is a tough one. Oh my gosh.
There's plenty of options.
Oh, geez. I don't. Oh, that's a tough one.
I didn't mean to stump you out the gate, but it's a fun. We're such a restaurant culture here. There's so many different types of cuisine and types of restaurants, and so I always like to hear what people's go-to is.
Honestly, probably, and this may sound silly, but Gilberto's.
Oh, that doesn't sound silly at all.
Yeah.
That's probably in my top 3. If I and I haven't answered this question for myself, I'll admit.
Yeah.
But I could live on Gilberto's for a year. Yeah.
There's just so much options there,
and it's 24/7.
Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. So
I love it. Well, I want to get into some of the questions readers had, and one of the topics that came up most frequently was housing and addressing homelessness in our community. What is your philosophy when it comes to addressing homelessness, and is there anything you would do differently than what the city's doing now?
This is an issue. It's not going to get solved overnight. It's not going to get solved in a year or 5 years from now on. It's just mental illness and substance abuse is so complex. As a society, we haven't figured that answer yet.
Yeah.
But I think for Sioux Falls to make any progress with that, we have to tackle this issue from both ends of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. Right? How do we take care of the young, right? Those kids who are in abusive and homes that they were of neglect, so we can make sure that they don't end up being homeless. But then on the other end, we also have to focus on, finding people the proper housing, and sometimes that can be difficult. Mm-hmm. And I think the best solution is, there's just so much programs that we have here, but it lacks funding. So how do we get our business community to support this cause? Mm-hmm. And I don't have that answer, but I think the community does, and I'm gonna approach this with an open mind, and listen to some of and approach this from 5, 6, 7 different perspectives. Mm-hmm. And if we can make progress in reducing that number in any way, I think that should be a focus, and I think we have made progress. I think the last report, homelessness was down by 3%. So if we can keep that going for the next 5 to 10 years, I think we'll be in a great place as a city.
I want to talk also about affordable housing, just across the board. And, I think We've seen home prices rise, the options, or it can be challenging as more people come here. How would you address, or what role do you think the city should play in helping provide affordable housing options for the community?
Oh, yeah, I mean, this is another great question, right, that has to be viewed from multiple different perspectives. One, I mean, we need higher paying jobs. Mm. On the other end, I think we just, the city has to collaborate with landlords. We have to continue building more homes, whether it's city donated land. But it's a tough issues. And I think we just have to approach it with an open mind again and just work together, sit on the table, and get everybody together and try to find some solutions to this. Because, I mean, I understand, right? The price of rent just keeps going up and up with no end in sight. I mean, we have young college students that are moving here. I mean, they're not able to afford to buy their first home. I mean, this seems to be a national trend. So, but there are a few tools that City Council has that could help to alleviate that.
Yeah. I also want to talk about public safety. The police department's grown significantly under Mayor Paul Tenhaken's term. So has the city. Crime rate, meanwhile, has remained relatively flat on a per capita basis. How would you approach balancing the public safety needs of the community with the budget realities facing the city?
Such a great question, Megan.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, our police department and Chief Toom, I mean, they're doing such an amazing job, and they deserve all the support we can give them. And I'm not for, unrestricted money, right, being given to the police department. But I think public safety is just priority. I mean, if we want to continue seeing the success that we've seen for the past 15 years, we have to remain a safe community. And I think the police department have been doing an amazing job with community policing. Both Chief Thum and the mayor, they're pushing for mentorship and early literacy, and these are just so important. These are very important preventative measures that could help us out 10 years from now on and reduce the cost of the police budget.
Another public safety question that came up from a lot of readers was, do you support collaboration between the Sioux Falls Police Department and federal immigration officials?
That's a great question, Megan. And it's something that I struggle with, being an immigrant myself. I mean, we do live in a very conservative state. And if you criticize that in any way, right, I mean, you would be attacked from so many different directions.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that question caught me off guard. I mean, I know it's just, I mean, it's sad, the state we're in right now as a country. I wish there was a better answer to this, but this is coming all the way from a federal level.
Yeah.
And I mean, our hands are kind of tied. I mean, it's certainly something that I'll speak up against, right? So.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Let's lighten things up a little bit. I want to talk about the arts. The city's in the process of developing an arts and culture plan, master plan, And a recent survey showed most residents do support city funding for the arts. How would you personally approach decisions about funding public art projects?
I mean, public art, it's an economic tool. When we have more art, especially in the core, it brings more people. But at the same time, also with budget constraints, I think we have to focus on those core services, public safety, public works, parks and recs. But yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of the arts, whether it's the sculpture walk, whether it's a mural all across town. I think we need more of it. But I also think the private sector can step in to support some of these art initiatives.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you about sustainability. The city has a sustainability plan. I'm not sure how much has really even been done with it, but what would be your approach to protecting our community's natural resources, and specifically when it comes to zoning and addressing new developments coming into town?
I'll say I'm going to prioritize communication first and foremost, and get community input. I mean, how do you see your community? Do we have enough green space? What's your thoughts on the river? And when I get that feedback, I'm going to formulate my conclusion based on that.
Yeah. Can I ask you specifically about data centers too? Because I think that's something that's come up in terms of concerns about water usage or electric rates going up. How would you kind of approach decisions about balancing, obviously wanting to be pro-business and technology, but also protecting those natural resources that we have and addressing those concerns people have?
Absolutely, Megan. I think data center has been a very hot topic recently.
Certainly.
And I'm just as concerned about water usage and the rise of energy bill as anybody. But I think as a state, we have to increase our capacity for data storage. We do live in a digital world, and data centers are the digital backbone of the digital world. And we're kind of behind right now. If there's a way that it can be done in an environmentally friendly way, I think we should do that. And there's a lot more study that needs to be done before we build anything. The data center itself doesn't bring a lot of jobs, but when companies do want to move to Sioux Falls, they're looking at how much data storage we have. And that can bring a lot of jobs if they do choose to move here. Sure.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I want to pivot to talking about something close to me personally. I've got 2 little kids, as you know. What role, if any, do you think the city should play in addressing the ongoing childcare crisis in Sioux Falls?
Oh, absolutely, Megan. I think childcare has been another huge topic. I think several years back, there was a plan brought up called TRICARE. And I think that's something we should definitely bring back up. And we have to engage the private sector. I don't think we can, they can be such a big player when it comes to childcare. And it's going to be a win-win for everybody, right? For the city, for the private sectors, and for the families.
Yeah.
But it does cost a lot of money. And it's just something that we have to look at from multiple different perspectives. And we have to continue having open dialogues and discussing this, but we do need a solution.
Yeah. Yeah, I can appreciate that. I just heard they're doing the TriShare model. They've tested it in Rapid City. They're also looking at it in Brookings now too. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely some examples even close to home that we can look to. Let's talk a little bit about downtown. You were at the council meeting last night with me talking about the Smithfield tax increment financing. That is now past and moving forward.
Yeah.
But when Smithfield moves out of downtown, what's your vision for that space, for that Sanford district as they're calling it, and maybe more importantly, how do you plan to approach decision making about what that looks like in the future?
Oh, Megan, it's Smithfield moving. I think is, the greatest news we've received in the past 50 years. But we as a community have to slow down and take it a step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing we should be worried about is how do we help those 3,000 workers there to successfully transition to that new plant.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm hearing is that a third of the jobs will be eliminated. That's over 1,000 workers. If that transition isn't successful, it's going to be a catastrophe for the city. Number two, we have to focus on the environmental analysis of this.
Mm-hmm.
How do we clean that up? And it's going to cost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And we might even have to bring in the Historic Board for Preservation to see if any of those buildings are worth saving.
Sure.
Smithfield has been a part of Sioux Falls history. I don't think we should just level it out and pretend that it was never there. Number three, the surrounding neighborhoods. I mean, those people at Whittier neighborhood are worried. So how do we begin the process of distinguishing Whittier neighborhood as historic so we can limit any constructions or any sort of tear downs or just any removal or just changes in the character of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then we can start dreaming big. But we can't just jump from step 1 to 7. I think we have to take this a step at a time and make sure that everyone is taken care of, the workers, the neighborhoods, and then let's start dreaming. As Jeff Eckhoff was saying, this is a 60, 70-year plan.
Yeah.
And it's something that should be led by the community. What does the community want there? And it's not my job as a council member to impose my own vision on what I want there. Or I think I have to go out and listen to constituents, to the business community, to consultants, and then be able to form a master plan. I think the city should be able to form a master plan out of that. But first and foremost, it has to be led by the community.
Yeah, definitely. There's another parcel downtown. We talked about the Riverline district that the city's purchased, that sort of parcel by the viaduct. What do you want to see happen there in terms of downtown development? And maybe more specifically, do you support building a new convention center downtown?
Do I support building a new convention center downtown? I think it could certainly help. But at the same time, I hear a lot of complaints. People don't want it built on the back of taxpayers. We're continuing to increase our budget, but we're not getting enough in. So, and there's just all these unfinished projects, right? Well, there's the parking ramp.
Yeah.
So how can we begin to finish things and begin seeing results before we move on to the next project? So it's just another thing that we have to just approach with an open mind, to listen to voters, to listen to constituents, to truly listen to what they want and approach it from a different perspective before we move on.
Yeah. You've been to your share of city council meetings. There's a sense among some people in the community that the city council doesn't listen to constituents. You saw, last night, almost, several hours of testimony. You saw it with the data centers. And I think that people have a feeling that showing up in that way doesn't matter. Do you agree with that sentiment? And tell us about how you would approach seeking feedback from your constituents.
How would I approach seeking feedback from my constituents? I've been doing this all along, meeting with people, listening. Don't always agree with them, but I think it's important to listen anyways, and to gain as much perspectives as you can. I think city councilors have to engage with the community. And residents of Sioux Falls are frustrated because a lot of these councilors get elected and then they go into hiding, Megan. I think moving forward, as a city, we can't afford to elect these types of councilors.
And what do you do differently?
I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be listening. As I said, this campaign is based on listening to constituents, and not my imposing my vision or the vision of developers, but truly understanding what constituent wants and advocating for that.
Yeah. Zach, I want to thank you. I know I've thrown a lot of different topics at you with no warning really, but I appreciate you kind of riding this roller coaster with me and answering these questions. I also want to give you an opportunity to share, is there any priorities or any topics, important to your campaign that you want to talk about before we let you go?
Absolutely, Megan. There's just a few things that I think, my three priorities are public safety, responsible growth, and building bridges between neighbors. And I think it's just very important, especially at the current state that we're in right now. And it's based on listening first and foremost, and getting as much perspectives as I can from everyone to formulate my conclusion. But that's all I have, Megan.
That's all right. Is there anything else you wanted to share with voters before Election Day? Sioux Falls is just such a great community. I encourage everyone to get engaged, to go out to council meetings, to speak with their counselor, and to truly voice their opinion on what type of city they want, what type of city they want for their kids in 20, 30 years. So that's all I have. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And you're speaking my language with that civic engagement. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Zach.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. I appreciate you.